Don't park in my brother-in-law's spot. My girlfriend's brother Bill has been seeing his girlfriend for a few months. She lives in an 4-apartment complex, with 4 unsheltered parking spots. Each tenant is entitled to use one, for his/her own car or a visit. Also, there are 2 special spots, under a roof with an individual lockable gate that are closer to the apartments. If you want to use one of these, you have to rent it for an additional monthly fee. Since my brother-in-law is now a regular visitor, and one of the special spots was available, he and her girlfriend decided to rent it. She would park there on a daily basis, and he would park in the regular spot. However, this one neighbor decided he could use this special spot if it was not occupied when he came home, since the gate is now open. The first time, they talked to him and he apologized. Second time, he says he was in a hurry and was just about to leave. Third time, the landlord was informed and they had a long talk about it. Well, last Saturday, when Bill and his girlfriend arrived, neighbor's car was parked in the gated spot. No need to talk this time. Bill closed the gate and locked it with his own padlock. Coincidentally, they decided it would be a nice day to take a trip. They picked up some things from the apartment and left for a weekend trip. Of course, they had to block neighbor's number on their phones. On Sunday night, back home, they found neighbor was pissed. His car was locked. They would not answer his calls and the landlord didn't give a duck about his problem for THW entire weekend. That's what the neighbor gets. Maybe next time he would park in his own spot instead of others. I'm glad you inconvenience him. I hope it taught him a lesson. That's not how reality works. I've heard that'll teach him type statements a lot. I've never heard and that taught me not to be in bleep please tell me I'm wrong. I could use the hope. It can work, and I have seen Reddit stories where it does. Not because the person becomes a better person, acknowledging their a-holeness and vows to do only good forwards. Nope. It is because they think the other person is a bigger a-hole and know that what they would do is escalate and don't want that to happen to them. Shrug. If it works, good enough. Yep, you don't teach them to be a better person, just that they can't get away with screwing with you. The thing is though, if enough people do this to them they eventually become more cautious with everyone. Not because it's the right thing to do but because they are worried about consequences. Basically dishing out consequences to assholes makes the world a better place as long as you don't cross the line and become the asshole. Yes, this. In the world of parenting, we call that reality discipline. If parents won't provide consequences for their kids, the world eventually will. The world's consequences go way harder than half of all parents out there though. Educational. Yet, somehow I don't see the neighbor learning his lesson for long though. I had a neighbor like this toad several times before they finally got the clue. They knew that I was done with their spot stealing bullspeep and they knew I would tow their car. Yet they had to try it anyway. For some dumbass reason. When someone looks you dead in the eye and tells you that it is their deeded property and they will have your car towed again if you park there again. Even for a quick minute, and you park there repeatedly anyway. That takes some big brass balls. I had a vehicle towed once. I was in the wrong. I parked this store's parking lot but it was for customers inside the store and they monitored the lot. It wasn't a good feeling coming out to an empty space. I couldn't imagine having that done on a regular basis. How long were you parked there for? However long it took the tow truck to get there. Yeah, pretty much. Lol. Ah, this is fantastic. Clean, simple and well within your rights. Brilliant. Could have been a prick and had it towed but instead locked it up for weekends saving buddy towing and storage charges. Hopefully he's learned his lesson and doesn't park there again. Well done. I don't think the bill would have been a prick if he had it towed. He had already given the guy several passes. The neighbor is the one being a prick. He should be hit in the wallet if he hasn't learned his lesson. Yep, that's some sweet, petty revenge. They could even claim they locked it without checking because they knew it must be car-free because both their cars were on the outside. And if it's a fence you can see through, well, they were just so excited to get away, they obviously so excited for their weekend away they clearly weren't paying attention. Smile sweetly with a hint of smugness. Like seriously, what compels some neighbors to be assholes and create issues? The last thing I'd want to do is have a difficult relationship with the people I have to live next to. You don't have to be best friends with your neighbors but being kind and respectful makes life so much easier. In Belgium, we have the saying better a good neighbor than a faraway friend and it is very much true. After googling this a bit as I thought it was Dutch, the origin seems to be Proverbs 27:10. I'm not religious. Yes, well, Belgium is bilingual and I am from Flanders, where they speak Dutch. So it is possible. I am also not religious. Stupid, sexy Flanders. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Enjoy. That was amazing. His whole channel is pretty great. I was a Patreon for it before COVID. It'd feel extra satisfied after that trip. This is so much better than I expected. I was thinking this was a towing story. Oh, how I loved it. Especially that the landlord didn't give a rat's ass. I love it when someone thinks what they're doing can't be prevented by the victims and then they find out the hard way that this is not the case. I hope he enjoyed his free weekend parking spot. We have this slumlord in our neighborhood who thinks it's perfectly fine to park in front of people's garages and block their cars in while he's checking on his properties. He did that to us repeatedly, no matter how many times we tried to be civil. Finally I had his ass towed. He had the nerve to come pounding on my door to ask me what my problem was. I pointed to my no trespassing signs and told him he could take it up with the tow company and the police and shut the door in his face. He's never blocked my garage again. That last part felt satisfying as peep to read. It felt that way too. Especially since we had tried to be civil. The time before we finally had him towed he got super speepty and he and my husband ended up in a yelling match because it was the fourth time he made my husband late for work. That's why we ended up just calling the towing company. We had the signs and we had video surveillance of him abandoning his vehicle an hour beforehand. Jeff was the type to try to use his size to intimidate people, which made it extra satisfying when all 5 feet 2 inches of me got the best of him and shut the door in his face. I cackled for a good 20 minutes. At least no one would be able to attempt to steal his car while brother-in-law and GF were gone. Thank goodness. To those saying he'll never learn, it can happen. I parked in someone else's spot once. My car got towed. I've never parked in someone else's spot again. You are an intelligent person that made a mistake. Some people are just dumb assholes that won't learn. Chef's kiss. This will likely be buried, as I'm late to the game. But here goes. I posted this a few years ago. I did something similar a few decades ago. While in college, I lived in an apartment building with 24 units. Each apartment had one numbered parking spot. Fairly often, some wanker, usually a visitor, would park in my spot. No off-street parking in that area either. One day, I arrived to find a car parked in my spot. I look inside, and see that it is a stick shift, but the parking brake is pulled. For the heck of it, I tried pushing the vehicle, and to my surprise, it moved very slight downhill grade, and smallish car. And apparently they didn't pull the parking brake hard enough. And they left it in neutral. Duh. So I moved it to the middle of the parking lot, parked in my spot, and made a note of their license plate number. No retaliation, and that car never parked there again. And apparently they didn't pull the parking brake hard enough, and they left it in neutral. I used to do that out of ignorance and general naivety. A couple months after I bought my first Standard, I parked my car in our inclined driveway. I lived with a couple of my friends at the time and lightly pulled on the parking brake. The car was in neutral. Of course, as I still hadn't broken the habit of just dropping the clutch immediately after ignition without thwacking the shifter to see if it was in neutral. Leading to several embarrassing stalls. Well, let me tell you, it's a heart-sinking feeling when you walk out the front door and only see 2 of the 3 cars in the driveway and your own car in the middle of the cul-de-sac. About 50 feet away from where you left it. Learned my lesson real quick that the clutch stays depressed and the shifter in gear while the engine cuts off and the parking brake gets pulled to its max height. It only ever gets parked in neutral when I'm inside my own garage. Why didn't he just find some padlock cutters? He could be charged then for destruction of property. Wouldn't you need proof? Guy could just claim he never saw the lock. Gate was open when he got there ... Shrug. I mean, the first time you leave a message / send a text, you've now given them proof, and I'm willing to bet most people would leave a message or text before resorting to breaking the padlock. Brilliant. Your bill is much nicer than I am. I would have just had the car towed. They were going out of town anyway. And for the neighbor, towing may look like a conventional solution. Maybe he's been towed before. He's fully in control of when he gets use of his vehicle again. Locking the vehicle in, however, is a more outside the box, maybe inside the box solution that says I control you. Mother peeper, if you park here, he's lucky Bill wasn't gone longer. Awesome. If he parks there again, have him towed. Love this, exactly what I would have done. What's to stop him from padlocking your car and anonymously? Hopefully, he learned his lesson. However, I fear this will trigger a petty parking lot war. I'm gonna need an update. What did the neighbor say? Has he parked in the spot since? I gotta know. Now they'll park in the spot but not all the way in so that the gate won't shut. I'm afraid petty parking lot war has started. Make sure to post retaliation / escalation updates. He should have looked up locksmith lawyer. This lock could have probably been picked or cut in a short time. But peep that guy for parking in their spot. Too late now, but what went through my mind? 1. Tow the offending car around the corner. 2. Lock the garage. 3. Watch neighbor react for a couple or few days. 4. Reveal location where the car has been all along. Where we live, a friend of mine has moved in about 30 feet away from me. We are at the bottom of the slope in her house. Of the inconsiderate bloke with his work truck parks outside. It blocks out all light as he houses approx 5 down a slope to the pavement. He's a bit ignorant, but she tried nice and he told her to peep off, but the next day he told her he'd lost his job so the van wouldn't be there. Not seen karma that quickly in years. It's not exactly hard to open a padlock. Not saying I feel bad for the neighbor at all. He had more than enough chances to stop. I'm just surprised the lock wasn't just cut off. Maybe neighbor didn't want to get into further trouble. However, I don't think he is able to change a light bulb on his own. I hope he learned the lesson, but sadly, I think they just started a petty parking lot war. For some reason I read that as charge a light bulb and I swear my brain short-circuited slightly. With smart bulbs these days, that may not be an unrealistic thought. Seems like it would be possible to stick a small battery in there so if the power goes out, it can be used for emergency lighting. Park in my spot, no duck for you. I love this story. If the neighbor were smart, he could have gotten some bolt cutters. But then again, if he were smart, he wouldn't have parked in that spot to begin with. They should have had it towed when they got back. He has no right to be pissy with anyone but themselves. I think they're lucky you didn't have the car towed. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Quack, quack, mother ducker. I'm sure he never again parked in that spot. Next time, have him towed. Would it be weird to say that this was oddly satisfying to read? A well-deserved karma to that neighbor. This is the lock-picking lawyer, and what I have for you today is a very interesting gate padlock behind which some schmuck parked his car. You call your GF's brother your brother-in-law? Right? People love doing little things like that to make their relationship look more serious. i.e. wearing wedding bands when you're just dating.